G'day guys, and welcome to what will be hopefully the first of many Warframe build videos. For those who are interested, I also make Outriders build videos and review builds. I'm hoping to be doing a similar thing for Warframe now I'm starting to get back into the game. I have been playing this game for long enough to reach Mastery 24 over stints of playing, so while there are gaps in my knowledge, I do have a decent amount of knowledge when it comes to the game, so feel free to ask any questions about either game that is. I stream both of them. My schedule can be found on my Twitch, which will be linked in the comments down below. Now, before we get into this video, I would just like to say if it gets 10 likes, I will work on the next character you want me to do a build for. Otherwise, if you just want to see what I've got planned, you can just leave the likes and don't comment who you want to see. But without going too much into that, I'm sure you can all get the gist of what I'm hoping for. I was going to first show you how I got the aesthetic for the Warframe, then go through the build itself, starting with mods, where say you don't have the Umbra or Archon or any of the or even primed mod that I use, just substitute it with the lower level version. So if I use Prime Continuity, which I do in the coming build, you can use standard continuity. If you have prime stretch, because I only use standard stretch, go for it. It will just affect your overall former cost and the effectiveness of the build, where you will either enhance or enhance the build itself. Now, for the cosmetic of the character for today, we are going with Protea, as you can see, and this is just the attachments, color scheme, and things like that I use within this build itself. I also standardly play with most of my weapons, excluding my melee, turned off, just for purely aesthetic, no other reason than that. So, of course, I'm not going to go too far into which weapons I'm using for this build, because Protea doesn't really need partner with weapons, but they do help when you run low on energy. But other than that, we will start to go over the mods I use, a bit about what they do, and any substitutions I can think of, or possible things you can do to alter the build to make it stronger or more diverse in a certain section. As like if you want to use it for defense or survival, though this build in particular is good at running both those missions. It is just more of a standout as a defensive mission. Mods that I chose to use within this build. First of all, we have obviously the aura, which I went for energy siphon, as Protea can be a bit of an energy hungry frame at times, and that does come in handy. Now, there's other ways to mitigate the energy side, such as you can use your operator or an arcane or things like that, depending on what you have access to in the game at this current time. So, if you want to run this build, try find a way so you can generate more energy or decrease your energy usage. Exilus slot, I run Cunning Drift. This is mostly for the ability range itself, because I want to run a large range and duration with this build so I can hold down areas for a long amount of time. And a large area is always better than a small area, let's face it. It will also reduce the friction when you slide, meaning that when you slide, you slow down at a slower rate and are able to keep momentum, plus makes you able to slide 12% longer. The next mod I run is Continuity, which primed Continuity, which, as I said earlier, if you don't have, you can replace it with one of the other continuity mods that are out there. We are, as I said, just aiming for as much duration and range as we can when you're going for the earlier levels of this build, if you are to dial it down a bit. Vitality, everyone has a vitality. It may not be maxed out, but it's good to have the extra health, especially if you can build in a health gaining mechanic into the build. I use Umbral Intensify because I've been working on this build since Umbral Intensify came out, and I enjoy using it for its extra damage. I might eventually swap it out for an Archon, but not at this stage. Next up we have Primed Flow, which, like all primed mods, can be brought from Barrow or in the marketplace once you have Platinum, or if he brings it for ducats and credits. Next up I use Stretch to once again increase my range more, followed by Streamline for a bit of efficiency so I can spam cast a bit more, leaning back on it will eventually run out of energy, so having a bigger pool can come in handy. And then using both Augur Reach and Augur Message, yet again for more range and durability. I also run Arcane Energize to yet again get more energy flowing. What it does is gives you every few seconds an energy orb will grant extra energy, and Arcane Grace to keep my health up. Now that we've covered the basics, or at least, arcanes and mods, next you will, if you have access to it, be looking into the helmets to make a build more personalized for yourself. So I myself on this build like to run Lavos's Viral Rush instead of Dispensary. I don't use the Dispensary as frequently as I never used it. But since I switched it to Viral Rush, I use it to get around the map a lot quicker, and also as a last-minute escape. If things are going downhill within the mission, I can get out of the problem pretty easily using it, without having to use operators and things like that. So, now the last thing that you do when you're going for your builds is your Archon Crystals, if you have them and if you have plenty. Depending on what you have is what you use, but for this build in particular, I have used 2 reds, both on duration, 2 blues, 1 for armor, 1 for health regeneration, and a yellow for casting speed, which throughout this video, where you can see where it's almost like I'm gliding using my abilities, it gives you access to that by making you be able to cast them just slightly faster. You can get further into access into this if you feel you don't need the armor or as much duration because you play with friends or don't do as long to need the longer duration. You can swap it out for extra cast speed to make it almost like you can fly using this ability pretty much for additional movement on top of the Viral Rush. Anyway, thank you all for watching this video, and remember, give us 10 likes and I will make the next one. If it's up to me, I will be going with my Harrow, but if you want to see something else, let me know. Also, if at any point a weapon is used within the build to enhance the build, I will also cover the weapons if necessary. But this one, for example, use any weapon. A lot of the damage that the character is doing will not buff through weapons or anything like that. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to follow and follow, subscribe to whichever ones go with where, follow Twitch, linked below, and sub here.